listeners, Vineyard Creatrix, Crimson Velvet VIPs. Welcome to my Saturday, October 8th, 2022 at 2:08 p.m. DMV Standard Time. We are here at the moment of truth, the moment that I've been waiting for all day. And I'm glad that I got the preliminaries out of the way so that I could dive into this. So, we're going to talk about all the stuff that I want to talk about surviving. How about that? Surviving cannabis prohibition. And so I've always been, I speak a lot about it, a scholar of Sankofa. Being introduced to the context of Sankofa within my kinfolk and my intimate circles has changed my life. Go back and get it, go back and get it, go back and get it. Now, from the socially engineered standpoint, the whole go back and get it will make you feel like you're trudging through your wretched past and you got to deal with exes and okay, let's drop that to the wayside. Drop it like a hot potato and not even have a hot rock. No, hot rocks are good too in the spa. What can we drop it like? A bad habit? All right. Because that's exactly what the fuck it is. So for a long time, I have been a scholarly fan of Oaksterdam University. And so never being on the West Coast and have never got to the point where I could financially uphold the type of purse strings needed to be um, okay, so I had to pause it real quick. Brief interruption. Okay, so now we're back, and I have to kind of remember what, where. Well, I know we're at the beginning, so let's just start at the beginning, shall we? So, Oaksterdam, yes, Oaksterdam University, and so never having the purse strings to be able to uphold the type of learning that I'm looking forward to. Trust me, it's on my bucket list. But thank goodness to those that I am identifying that have an actual giftology department. Now that's what I call it. This is what I'm calling it inside of my coaching practices. It's a giftology form of being. And so it came to me, and I can't remember exactly what the terminology is, but the Jewish community, and I'm also finding out like the sports associations and things, they have it to the point where everyone who is generating income puts a small percentage into the pot. And so for those that have not can actually experience certain things, people, places, things, that kind of thing. And so that's where that the idea sprouted from. And me calling it a giftology department comes by way of my storylines that I have been cultivating over the last, what, 10, 11 years. And so through character building and all this kind of stuff, taking Toni Morrison's advice to, was it Toni Morrison? Yes, it was. Was it Toni Morrison? To, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank right now? To create the book you want to read or to create the stories you would like to hear or be engaged in. And so, as I've been saying a lot in the last week or so, about a conversation that me and my sister, it's been a running conversation, but we recently just had um, another episode of this ongoing conversation about how we will sit in front of a a television show or sit in front of the big screen, or even sometimes in music where our people, our kinfolks, the ones we know personally, never show up. Where it's like, ain't no dude in my family gonna act like that. I don't even know no dude who would do that, or that kind of thing. Where it never seemed to be real life, and this is not always, but for the most part. So that's where a lot of my storylines and my character development has been um, planted, seeded, harvested, cultivated. Cannabis is another one. It is another core component that I believe in my heart of hearts has had its character assassinated, all for the free range of enterprise. And so I have notes. Of course, I have notes. Um, and I mainly gathered these notes because I really do want to stay on track with this, because this is one of the subjects that will light my fire, ruffle my feathers, make me yell from the rooftops. And trust me when I say my volume on my voice can carry. So I honestly can yell out my window and the folks on the other side of the street can hear me. It's the thing I have. It's the thing I've always had. As I get older, I have been learning to temper my volume inside of my voice, but it's still got that boom, and I'm not afraid to use it. The injustice around cannabis is one of those things that will raise my temperature, thus, along comes my volume. So, I'm going to take you to the 1930s once I find my notes. Hold on. I am buried in notes right now. I got a lot going on. Um, I have a lot going on non physically, intellectually, um, where these intuitive hits are taking me. Wait a minute, hang on. Hold the line. I gotta hit pause for a moment because I don't want to just have the ticker be going while I try to find this. So hold tight. Okay. So the the segue to um, this thing Biden talking about, and even in that little teeny clip with him talking of all the things that he plan on doing and what he is recommending. The part that sent me down a rabbit hole, love my rabbit holes, it sent me down a rabbit hole when he says this makes no sense. It makes perfect fucking sense. And so that again just had me dial down the interest in me figuring if he's really going to handle these promises in the light by which he is claiming them to be. Like, is his intentions going to match his follow through? I'm not sure, because if the introduction to getting my attention is all propped up and I can sense that, like the resonance within you saying it makes no sense just rubbed me weird. And so here is my insert into the conversation just to help it make sense a little bit. So, sparking in the 1930s, and I'm pretty sure his notes are way more elaborate than mine because he got full access to the Library of Congress, even in those little nooks and crannies that's under lock and key. So he have access to all of that. So he, in my opinion, should have never came up in front of the people until it made sense. And he's had long enough time, whether it's from the notes that's inside of the Library of Congress or the accounts from the people or the crafting of the newscasters, whatever be it, he is in access to enough information that him saying it don't make no sense could have been avoided. It really could have been avoided because it makes sense to a whole bunch of other folks. So even if he do like I do, if you don't understand something, start asking some fucking questions. Anywho, I got some hot spots. And there is this full documentary that I am going to link. Now, am I using this as full stop truth? No. But what I will say is that it connects the dots rather nicely. And so um, mhm, it has been used as my foundation. What comes up again in conversation is the Industrial Revolution. There was a lot going on at the spark of this revolution. And another thing that I'm going to insert real quick is how we view revolution. Revolution for who? Right? Like, if we don't maintain the stance of understanding who's doing the speaking or who's doing the advocating, who's doing the storytelling, who's doing who's who. How about that? Remember that publication that used to come out? If we don't think that that was advantageous for all the players involved to have a circular, a leaflet, if you will, of everybody who was everybody that need to be incorporated or included. And it that right there helped keep the salt separated from the sugar. I wonder why my kinfolk don't have a who's who, or why we do not have our own Afro American heritage dictionaries and things like that. It takes time to be able to cultivate these things, and as I often say, my kinfolk are inside of an energy where we are being taught to repaste this thing, restitch this thing. And not that we need to go and mimic anything that they've done, but just to say yes to the re-engagement. And I honestly believe that your intuitive channels are going to connect you into the participation with the energies that are sitting and waiting for you to click activate. All you have to do is click it with a yes, and then you don't even have to say the yes out loud. You can say the yes inside of your non-physical spaces, and you will be amazed at the things that will activate. Case in point. So the introduction to this was a small snippet of me giving grapevine gratitude to my big sister Reese. Now she is the elder sister of my mom's children inside of my sibling tribe. And so just last week or so, last week, because on October 2nd, we began the new cycle for the 21 doors. And remember, that is each week going into meditation with one of the major arcana of traditional tarot. Even reading the history of tarot, finding out that that also was embedded inside of the University of Alexandria. And because I do not know a great deal about the inception of the robust Renaissance, or not even Renaissance, I don't think that's the right word. The moment in time when everybody was going to the motherland to get their higher education. And trust me when I say that that's another rabbit hole that I have frequent fly miles to. So I'm patching this thing together. But the tarot also began in that soil. So I have this thing. Now, this is my fourth round. Now, the first three rounds was for me to kick the tires, understand the frequency, just kind of see how things unfold. I was actually looking for the magic. And even right now in real time, I actually had to pause this week's in class with Carr. Dr. Carr gave the equivalents to the word magic, and I'm going to go back and write my notes. But I just had to pause it because of something else that him and Professor Kern was just talking about, him and Professor Hunter, Karen Hunter, was talking about, I want to make her my friend so bad. Hey, Karen, girl, let me tell you. But anyway, that they was speaking about that had me pause it to get ready to get to this segment because I didn't want too much time to get away from me before I was able to lay this down or lay this out, present this. So I've titled this Cannabis Advocacy, The Lost History. So sparking in the 1930s, and I am considering this Exhibit A. And so inside of a book that was recommended in the complimentary class from Oaksterdam University dealing with cannabis advocacy, I found the book that is titled The Emperor with No Clothes by Jack Herrera, which is on Amazon right now. I'm not sure where else you can get it from. I just know that it's on Amazon. If I remember, I will. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can make me a. I will link it for your convenience if you want to go check it out, or if you find yourself in the midst of wanting a little bit more insight around the prohibition of cannabis. And so the documentary is titled, which is on YouTube, "The Real Reason Cannabis Was Prohibited." And so cannabis saves lives. And most often when we hear this catchphrase, well, those in the cannabis industry, those the real cultivators and connoisseurs of cannabis understand that when it's said that cannabis saves lives, it's not just talking about the medicinal aspects of cannabis. Inside of this documentary, it tells you the incredible utilization from stem, nope, from root to stem to fruit. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So I'm going to read off a few of America's beloved, and then I'm going to give a backdrop to how cannabis at one point became public enemy number one. And there was an actual structured agenda that was supposed to go on for infinity, which will explain why, Mr. Biden, that cannabis would be on the Schedule 1 roster for as long as it has been, since you can't seem to make it make sense. So, Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Mellon, Lamont DuPont, W.R. Hearst. And then all by way of inheritance, Harry Anslinger. So there was this thing where W.R. Hearst had just put a shit ton of money into the slaughter of a timber forest so that he could have paper to print his tabloids and whatever other kind of shitty news he wanted to circulate through the people's uh, parameters. And so hemp paper was going to put his ass straight out of business. It wasn't going to give him a run for his money. It was going to shut him down. Same thing with Lamont DuPont. The whole DuPont enterprise was up for shaming when it came up to the resources that were available to be tapped into with just the hemp oil alone. There was this thing called Chemergy, Chemurgy, and Henry Ford actually was investigating, he was researching, he was developing. Now, they didn't really say Henry Ford's take on it aftermath, but Henry Ford actually developed an entire outer shell for automobiles out of the fibers of the cannabis plant. So if you can go and you can find the article titled New $1 billion Crop by Popular Mechanic Magazine. I didn't catch the date when it was published, but it was back in those days, so roughly in the 1930s, somewhere around in there, before everything got started. This article is the thing that lit these guys' britches on fire to say if we don't do something, everything that we work for or striving for is going to go down to shit. So then there came this whole entire cycle of campaign to villainize and criminalize cannabis. They show clips of one of the first uh, uh, motion pictures, I'm going to say. Maybe a commercial, but it wasn't really a commercial. It was more like a PSA. Um, And if you could just see the fuckery that was going on inside that little clip about what happened to folks when they are on marijuana. And that's another thing that I'm noticing, and I'm saying anyone that posts up to try to put in proper context, speaking about cannabis and they calling it marijuana or weed, when you calling it by its nickname, but your informal conversations, you ain't taking this shit seriously. So it's all these little nuances that give me the indication, the resonance that somebody is still up to their tricks, as they always are when they get ready to get fired up to be inside of these political spaces dealing with the public. So I think that we would do ourselves a true favor, especially those that are inside the industry, especially those that have appointed themselves cannabis ambassadors and the true advocacy, whether it's for recreational use, medicinal use, economic use, domestic use, whatever it can be used for. And like I say, the list is long. And inside of the inside the book, the published book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, it's an itemized, very comprehensive uh, piece of information surrounding around all of the things, even in this documentary. I was surprised. I was surprised at all the things that can be produced through the true cultivation of cannabis, and it was for the people, and it was really presented as a product that could help fill in the gaps for this terrible thing between the haves and the have-nots. It makes me wonder, where are the champions for the underdog? Where are the champions for the have-nots? Is it just supposed to be the inevitable that the have-nots will never have? Totally dismissing and glazing over all of the shenanigans and the rigging of the game and like Dr. Joy say, you break my ankle and then you complain about me limping. Like all of this strikes me odd that we would still have politicians that get in front of this mic with these shenanigans. And then we get from the peripheral this whole go vote shit. So it's like if everybody would be transparent, if everybody would have the chance to demystify the political arena and truly understood what it was that we were dealing with, then maybe folks would show up in a little bit deeper sincerity. But you doing all this wag the dog shit, then it's shit. Leave the people to their own demise because of all these blind spots and all this, all the mismanagement of information, and folks have to investigate just to research and develop. So I'm here for it. I'm here for those that will go and check out Oaksterdam University, especially their virtual learning spaces, and find out where you fit in if in fact you are interested, even if you have become determined to do something or your part or your contribution towards making sure that the record gets straight. Like it's now time to reset the record so that it can begin to heal properly. And trust me when I say cannabis, the assassination of the character of cannabis feels like me sometimes, or I feel like it. Like all of the things that will be believed about me, and it's truly not. It's incredible how these things take root and take shape, and no research, no investigation. Like, where's the champions for real? Because it should never have gotten on Schedule 1. And even if it did, it is high time that it be pressure applied to this true injustice of character assassination. So that is my spiel on it um, right now. Hopefully, I have provided enough seeds, pun intended, to grow the type of crops in your curiosity that will begin to activate and unlock the talks around how you feel about it, even the way that it is spoken about or represented in my circles is incredible at how those that drink, they are so comfortable in their means to be lush, but then the way they talk about cannabis and the way they talk about those that partake as if it's weird. It is so weird. It is so weird. You got a glass of wine in your hand, you liberated. You got a J in your hand, you somehow lazy and lackadaisical. It's incredible to me. It's very incredible. And the more and more I do my journeys into hindsight, the more and more I am seeing the idiosyncrasies or the nuances that has crept into our vocabulary and the way we define and view and perceive things. And I'm forever grateful for the hippies. I'm forever grateful for Woodstock. I know it's in conjunction with other things, but I am just inspired by those who are liberated and they've taken these batons to say that we are going to provide you with some information or some true history or education so that you can begin to look at this thing in a better light. Yes, it's been moving like molasses, but it's been moving all the same. So here's to our selves and our evolution of point of view. And I do wish you well.